Welcome to the Media Frenzy podcast. I'm Gracie,
I'm Caitlin.
I'm Hallie.
I'm Chloe.
and this is going to be our last episode of Movie Month. So I decided to talk about the Hays Code today. Does everyone know what the Hays Code is?
Kind of.
I actually don't.
Okay. Okay, perfect, because I did a lot of research. So I really wanted you guys to need the background. Um, yeah, I did a lot of research, but you know what? What really helped me with my research was Columbia State's library. So it
My
was Chloe
God.
putting her hand on her mouth.
Because I'm shocked from the segue. That's really
I
good.
told you I wanted to do that. Okay. Columbia State's library. Uh, Columbia State is one of the oldest colleges in Tennessee. It's the first community college of Tennessee, established in 1966. They offer over 80 academic paths, and with their students having about a 94.8 success rate of finding jobs, it's just a great place to go. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to columbiastate.edu to learn more and maybe even get admitted. Anyway, back to our show. So I decided to talk about the Hays Code today. So, like I said, took a lot of research. So a little bit of background for it is you guys said you really didn't know what the Hays Code was. So it's pretty much when in the early 1900s, around 1915, 1930s, the government and quite a few religious groups and conservative groups were concerned about the effect that media had on the public, especially there were some scandals happening, and that's never good. So they were worried about some devious and perverse behavior being learned from films. So,
Devious.
yes.
That's a
So
good
in
word.
1950, or sorry, 1915, the US Supreme Court actually ruled that films were not protected by the First Amendment. So, um, the studios started getting worried that the government was going to start regulating them. So instead, they decided to do their own self-censorship so that the government couldn't control them. So they hired William H. Hayes, the former Postmaster General, and he created the code for them. So essentially, it's actually called the Motion Picture Production Code, but since his name is Hayes, it's easier. Just a nice colloquial name for it. But it was essentially the don'ts and be carefuls for Hollywood. Now, the interesting thing about this was it was a voluntary kind of code. So it was voluntary for film companies, but mandatory for filmmakers if they wanted their film to play in US theaters. Now, this code, it its general principles were actually I have them here because it's kind of laughable. Their general principles were no picture shall be produced with lower which lower the moral standards of those who view it.
It's very subjective.
Yes. So they didn't want the audience to be sympathetic or thrown to the side of crime, wrongdoing, evil, or sin. The correct standard of life, subject only to the requirements of drama and entertainment, shall be represented. And then law, natural or human, shall not be ridiculed, not and they they're not allowed to breed sympathy for the violation of these laws, natural or human.
What's that supposed to mean?
So
Natural laws?
essentially, yes,
No
naturally, what
flying.
everyone
That's the laws of physics.
true. What they decided was, it was essentially a lot of prohibitions of nudity, things like suggestive dancing,
Whoa.
superfluous superfluous uses of liquor, ridicule of religion, lustful kissing, scenes of passion, discussions, and visuals of sexual perversity, and miscegenation, which is the slur for interracial relationships or interracial things.
Well,
Um,
interesting.
so so
That's
how do
crazy.
we yeah, so how do you guys feel about maybe not obviously this extreme of it, but how do you guys feel about the idea of censoring films?
I mean, as long as no one's actually getting hurt, like I feel like anything is free game, like in fiction, because it's not real. But I don't know, if no one's actually getting hurt, like on set, the real people and the crew and the actors. I feel like anything should be fair game in film.
I mean, if it's fiction, I feel like the audience should be able to determine whether or not that they believe the principles that the film is presenting, regardless of its stance or viewpoints. Should it brings up like, should we just be playing porn in a regular movie theater? I mean, you have to show your ID, so it really shouldn't make a huge difference. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too loosey goosey with my rules, but I feel like everything should count under the First Amendment. I don't think there should be an exception.
I agree. I think like if it's somebody's own project, like they should be able to create what they want, and like even if like you do, I don't know, it's such a hard topic though, like I don't know, because like or not hard topic, but it's like
There's
I
a lot
don't
of weird nuances that you need to like take
yeah,
into account.
well, and it's like you could say like, oh, if you don't like it, like or you don't agree with it, just don't watch it, but it's like I don't know. I mean, I guess that's true, but like I don't know, that's also like that in and of itself is also like kind of a controversial statement too, but it's like I don't know. Like I guess like if we can say like what we want anywhere else, then like why not be able to like make what you want like in a film. Um so yeah, I agree with you, Hallie. Or with both you guys. But
So you guys don't think that there should be a limit on the suggestive posturing?
Posturing?
I think they should
Yes.
posture as suggestively as they want.
Yes,
Good or
suggestive
bad
posturing.
posture?
Because
All
I
postures
feel like
equal.
that's the thing with the First Amendment that I feel like a lot of times people look over. It's like, well, I can say whatever I want because freedom of speech. But it protects you against the government. It does not protect
Yeah.
you against how your
Shame.
words will affect you
Hmm.
going forward and the people around you and your relationships. So I think uh, the socialization we have of knowing what is right and wrong is enough to prevent anything, well, should be enough to prevent anything too egregious making its way onto the big screen.
And like
So,
there are like age restrictions on like certain things. I think th those are good. Those are good. We should still have those.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
like I think anyone should be able to make what they want. Not necessarily everyone should see what people are making, but yeah, just do whatever. Just don't hurt people in the process.
So it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because the age restriction is actually the response to them abandoning the Hays Code. So it was abandoned in 1968, where it was replaced with the MPAA rating system that we use today. Um, but yeah, so with all of this, um, obviously some of them sound a little ridiculous, but some of them are just downright like ignorance and bigotry.
Hmm.
Um, but I did love just it, they were just like no ridiculing like religion or you can with the nation, no showing I meant like laws being broken. So filmmakers at that time, to get around it, they started making more westerns because they said don't show violence now. Well, that's the past, so we can show that.
That's a really good
Stuff
loophole.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So going into the loopholes was really fun. So like in westerns, since they said you can't drink liquor in the Hays Code, well, they're ordering sarsaparilla. But something funny as well in the Hays Code is it talks about sexual health. So like you can't talk about STDs or like anything. But sarsaparilla was actually a cure for syphilis.
Ah,
Um, but just things like that where they had to get a little more artistic about showing these things. And that's an argument that I actually came across. So since this did happen, um, there's not really a need for like an outcry of like, wow, that was so wrong. Like you can say it now, but it doesn't change the past. So I actually found a counter argument for pro censorship of the past. Um, and it was in a book that in like to be clear, I didn't read the book. I didn't have time, but I did read reviews of the book. Um, and the arguments that the book was making was that censorship was good because it caused movies and literature, because it was comparing Victorian literature, to be more creative in the rhetoric, as they had to dance around the subject. So it forced them to be more creative, and it was kind of arguing that due to this censorship, there wouldn't be as much artfulness and as much clever, um, I mean, clever, what is it? Like script writing or dialogue. So how do you guys feel about that? I mean, like, do you guys think that censorship did cause more creativity?
Well, just because it produced good things doesn't mean that censorship is good. Like, what was the original question? Sorry.
No, you're good. It was just, do you guys think that censorship could be seen in a positive light because it did breed more of a creativity, or do you think that censorship did cause films and stuff to add more artistic flair?
I feel like sometimes it's crazy. It's a weird light just happened. Uh, I think sometimes like having rules for your artistic thing can like help you like with when you have to you've got like the burden of choice when you can do anything like sometimes that can like hinder your creativity. So I think in that sense, sure, it could have made things more creative, but by adding stipulations, you are actively like boxing people in. So in some ways, I'm like, sure, you have to be creative to get around the rules. So it's still hindering you, but it doesn't. I don't think human creativity can be even like contained. I don't know. That sounds dramatic, but
Okay. Caitlin, how do you feel?
Mm, kind of the same thing, like what Hallie said. Like, I don't know. I think it depends on like, I think it kind of depends on like what exactly or like what specifically is like being censored and like what kind of film is like being made. Um, and kind of like how you like are gonna, what am I trying to say? Um, like I don't know, you could be more innovative, I think, depending on like what you can and can't work with, but like, innovative in terms of like trying to find loopholes, I guess. But I mean, it can also, I don't know. I think it's kind of complex. I think it just depends on like the film and the restrictions that you have and everything. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I totally agree. I see the censor like especially this censorship. I see that as very wrong because it was just so restrictive and it's just because of public backlash or whatever. But I don't think you should restrict art like that. It's up to the viewer and their discretion. But I just finding that argument was really interesting because it was the argument of like, well, was their self-censorship really just putting boundaries for themselves? But with that kind of argument of like, oh, it created some loopholes, um, or clever ways for people to get around things. The second main thing I really wanted to talk about was queer coding today.
Oh Lord.
Uh,
Uh,
because um, that's really where queer coding started because in sexual perversion, that was really just code for homosexuality. Um, So I wanted us to talk about queer coding and how this code from 1930 still affects our media today. Um, and how stories don't get released or how characters they don't think producers or just um, studios do not think that they'll sell as much tickets or whatever if they have a queer character. So usually that is generally kind of stifled upon or it's just coded or whatever. Um, so I wanted to actually talk about before the code, there was um, like homosexuality in films. The first gay kiss was in the first gay kiss in film was in 1922, 8 years before this code was put into place. And then the first lesbian kiss was in 1930, the same year that this was put into place. So I kind of just found that interesting that after that, so much was stifled. Um, so I wanted us to talk about queer coding just because, like, I think it's so interesting that they had to these tropes that we now see of like how to how to like s spot like a gay character in an older film or in a film now even has kind of affected the way that people stereotype gay people today.
One
Um,
of the few things I know about the Hays Code,
yeah.
like before this, was the stuff about like gay people and queer representation in film, because because it was sexual perversion.
Mhm.
Like they always had to be the bad guys. And right now for like another class, I'm kind of writing something about villains and why they're always given like very cool things, like very cool lines, costumes, stuff like that. That's because they were supposed to be like flamboyant and evil. So like all the gay stereotypes were put on villains. So villains, in my opinion, are very cool. Cool because of stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that's also why Ursula is based on Divine.
Yes. So that's kind of what I was going to bring up as well, where, like I said, with the loopholes for making violent movies as Westerns and stuff, the loophole to have gay characters where they either had to be evil, because then you're not endorsing that lifestyle. You are just saying, like, oh, look, this is a queer character. However, they are evil or they die. So that's where the trope of bury your
Very
gays
good
comes
case.
from.
Very fun.
So that's how they got around. Like, they were like, oh, it's okay, we can still make characters, but they have to be evil. Um, and also in my research, I found that there is a trope called the psycho lesbian trope. Have you guys ever heard of that?
No.
Oh,
Okay, so in like old films, when they are like queer coding a lesbian, usually she's crazy and evil. So,
Arc.
I mean, think of, like you said, Ursula. She's crazy and evil.
She still slayed, but
She did slay.
yeah, she
yeah.
did
I
slay.
I will not question that at all. But yeah, so what are queer characters that you guys can think of right now?
All I can think of is
This
Ursula.
feels like a pop quiz.
Okay, I know.
Oh god.
Name
Oh
one
no.
No,
right now.
no. So like when I first looked it up, it is when I when you just put it into Google, it is Disney characters.
Oh, okay.
So it's
Oh, are
Disney
you asking like
villains.
characters that
First Disney
uh,
characters,
are
live
queer
action or
coded
3D.
or actually gay?
No, queer coded. Like,
Okay, okay,
Oh,
okay. Things that
okay.
we can think of that.
did I say that
Sherlock
wrong? I'm
Holmes.
sorry.
No, I just wasn't sure. Like, it's like, am I supposed to just name some gay characters?
No, no, just like characters that are queer coded that like still are throughout our modern knowledge of cinema.
Not really
Cinema.
like this is like before this because it's sort of in the books. But I think this is just because like it's not something that you can really go for at this time period, but like
Okay.
all the Sherlock Holmes adaptations, uh movies and books and
Oh
shows,
yeah.
There's no straight
Sherlock
explanation for him
2012.
and Watson, but they give Watson a wife at some
Yeah,
point.
just like
I think
just
just to
like
quell the rumors.
We can't talk about Sherlock, the BBC show. We can't
You
talk
can't.
about it.
no.
I've seen it.
But yeah, when I put in just queer coded characters, um, the characters to come up is first Ursula, then Scar, then
Slade.
Governor Ratcliffe, which is the bad guy from
The,
Pocahontas, and also obviously Shigo.
oh,
Oh.
work. Slade.
What about LeFou from
Well, he is the first gay Disney character.
yeah,
The
I
like
think
Oh,
30th one.
from
quote
Yeah.
Beauty and the
unquote
Beast.
they say that
Yeah.
Yes,
allegedly.
allegedly.
Allegedly, he
Well,
has the hots for Gaston, but
well, didn't they do?
It Dance with a Man for like
well, in the
point
live
5
action
seconds.
remake, he has
Yeah.
a 2 second longing look at a man at the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's
So it's confirmed
it's
in that moment.
so confirmed, very confirmed.
I can't think of anybody else.
So
Hold on.
when I looked it up, one that
Hades.
surprised me. Oh, definitely.
80s.
But
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, just for male characters, it's the stereotype of having more feminine and flamboyant gestures, and for women, it's just being evil. Just straight evil. That's all. Oh, sorry, no,
Well,
not
straight.
straight evil.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Exactly correct.
But one that I actually didn't think of when I looked it up that surprised me but made a lot of sense is Li Shang from Mulan.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say him and Mulan. Like Mulan
Yeah.
literally transes her gender. So she
So
does.
literally, because he's like attracted.
Yeah, he's attracted to
At,
her when she's pink.
yeah.
Yes.
So
And he gets like pissed off when he finds out she's a girl.
yeah.
Which,
You
like, I
fight
get
good.
like betrayal, whatever, but like, there was
No, you
clearly
know,
like some sort of connection before that reveal.
it was just secretly he was like, "You're a woman?" Ugh, and he just like stormed off.
Dang
It's
it.
him discovering he
Flips
likes
table.
women. Anyway.
Yeah.
This is a
No,
good quiz.
I know. No, I just was like, it's funny how many Disney characters it really is because it's Pleakley was the next one that I found that kind of that wasn't like the most obvious one from Lilo and Stitch. Do you remember the alien?
Oh, yeah, the green guy.
Yeah, the green guy that dressed
Big
up
gay energy.
as
He likes mosquitoes.
yes, and also he was the ant.
The ant?
So
Oh, the
for
alien
Lilo,
that
they
dressed in
pretended
drag?
yeah, so
Yeah.
for Lilo, she pretended that the other big hulking alien was like the uncle, right? And that was the ant.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about
Work.
that.
But that's why I was like, oh wow, Disney really be doing the most. Like
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
then what was it? Obviously, if it like they said Jafar, but I don't
I don't
really
know about
feel
that
that.
one.
I think he's just really predatory,
He
Jafar
is. He
just
like
needs to go to
dresses her
jail.
up in like a scantily clad outfit and like,
right?
He grooms minors.
yeah,
Not very slay.
not slay at all. Not
No.
slay, not gay. That's for sure.
But one that did make me laugh that I found, did everyone like High School Musical?
Oh, Chad and Ryan?
Yes.
Yeah,
They
I didn't
switch
really watch
clothes
them,
in
but
the I Don't Dance, like right after that. So
they do. That
they
happens.
do. They do.
Did everyone watch High School Musical? Because I'm not gonna lie.
I've only seen
I
parts
know
of
I
it.
watched it,
I've
but I
seen the
don't
first
remember
two.
it.
I had a friend that really liked High School Musical growing up, but I really didn't. So when she was sad, I would bring one in and be like, "We can watch it together."
Oh, that's really sweet.
The second
I
one's the
watched it,
best
but I
one.
was never like, oh my gosh, like massive fan of it. I don't know. I just liked it, but I didn't like.
And then like I also saw that Captain Hook was one of them. which I don't
Mhm.
know, like, as we recorded a video with the boys, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember Captain Hook. So if anyone remembers
Him and
Captain
Mr.
Hook,
Smee. So Smee's got LeFou vibes. He's got the LeFou disease, I think, where it's like
Is he?
the just like
wow, you sound
condition
just
where
like the Hays Code,
Wow,
Hallie.
they're
Hallie.
heavily implying where they just don't want to go that far. Um, he's like the bumbling henchman. It's just like kind of got the high pitched voice, and you're like, hmm.
I know what you want.
I know what you are. What's that meme of? Was it like a
Yeah,
dog?
the homophobic dog.
Yeah.
Okay, well, with that, what have we learned, everyone?
That's a great question.
I don't know.
Hmm. I learned what the Hays Code was because I didn't really know the
Yes.
details.
I had never heard of the Hays Code before. So, yeah, I learned what the Hays Code was too.
Censorship is bad, kids. Don't do it. No,
Don't do it.
do it.
Oh
Well,
no.
with on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and thank you guys so much for coming. See you guys next week.
Bye.
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 Bye.